We are going to explore the similarities and differences between two or more ideas and or substances, otherwise known as comparing and contrasting. So I told you that the whole reason that we were reading the letter from a Birmingham City jail is because we have to do a research paper on it. And so the research paper, as I said before, is going to be a compare and a contrast. I've been saying all this since the beginning. So we weren't watching X-Men just for the purpose of entertaining ourselves in class. We were watching it so that we can have something to compare the letter to. Okay, so I'm going to give you back all of your notes by tomorrow, all your annotations from the letter and your notes from X-Men. But you may have to go back in and read a few things in your notes. You may have to go online to the Facebook page and read some of my annotations if you didn't do any of the reading. You may have to go back and view some of the episodes a little bit to make sure that you have something that you want to say about comparing and contrasting X-Men and the Civil Rights Movement. Okay? So, let's talk about just that, our concept, comparing and contrasting. I have a short video clip for you. Yes. Your final is your research paper. Yep. So for your performance task, you're going to read the student model research paper and you're going to answer the questions that follow. We're going to do that by the end of the class. So here is the first video. We're not watching.
Wow, did you know that the bull shark has 50 rows of teeth? Bull sharks use their sharp teeth to bite and tear fish, turtles, and other prey. When a tooth breaks, another one moves into its place. You're reading about dolphins? Cool! Dolphins also have sharp teeth. But unlike bull sharks, they don't use them to tear their food. Instead, dolphins grab and swallow their prey whole.
Okay, so far, what are we talking about?
Dolphins and sharks.
Dolphins and sharks, is that all? How they eat, is that all? Comparing and contrasting both of them. I still didn't hear the main thing. What's the one topic that we're talking about overall? Teeth. Thank you. Okay, so one thing you should have noticed by now, we're going to take some notes, not on this, but just on compare and contrast. There's only one topic. Okay? One topic. Write this down. One topic, but two or more two or more subtopics. And these subtopics can be, again, like I said in our objective, anything from ideas to substances to objectives, anything. Okay? So it's only one overlying topic and then two or more subtopics. There should be an S on the end of subtopics. Alright, so let's keep going. We're talking about, in this example, teeth. And furthermore, we've broken it down into dolphins and sharks.
You're right, Moby. Sharks and dolphins are alike in some ways, and different in others. Looks like we need to play Sharks versus Dolphins. How do you compare? When you compare, you show how two or more things are alike.
Great. Let's write that down. To compare, this is just the elementary version, but we'll spice it up in just a few minutes. To compare, you show how two or more things are alike. This is just a very basic definition of comparing. To show how two or more things are alike. Okay? Let's go.
You describe how they're similar. see. Guitars and basses are musical instruments. They both have strings and a neck. A guitar can be very loud. A bass can be too. When you compare things, you think about what they have in common. All right, Moby, are you ready to play Sharks versus Dolphins? Here we go. How are sharks and dolphins alike? Right, they're both animals. Yes, sharks can live in the ocean, and dolphins can too. What else do they have in common? Think about how they look and act. Both animals can be gray and white. Yep, they're predators.
Alright, so let's now, I know someone is at the door. Let's now think of the questions that would have answered, that these would be the answers to. What questions do you think were asked in order to get this answer? What questions about sharks and dolphins told us about animals? What question was asked in order for us to know that a shark and a dolphin is an animal? What was asked? More specifically, Trenton?
What kind? What species?
No.
What is the right thing? But you would say.
What is
Right. Okay. So we would probably ask, what are they? Okay. So let's write this down. Okay. So when doing a comparison and contrast, not where. What? When doing a comparison and contrast, we can ask, what are they? And when we answer it, we would give an answer of what they are. Okay? They are this. Say, so sharks and dolphins are animals. What's another question that was asked to give us the answer of gray and white?
What color are they?
Okay, what color are they? Or another question more specifically would be, or less specifically would be, how do they look? Okay, let's see, I'll put appearance. Okay, I'll put appearance, and then this, for any subject, can describe the appearance of anything, not just sharks and dolphins, because we compare and contrast more than just sharks and dolphins. Okay? What about this one, Kalia? What question was asked to get the answer of ocean?
Oh, I know.
Hold on for just 1 second. What question was asked for us to get the answer of ocean when it comes to sharks and dolphins? Okay.
Where do they live?
Okay. So where do they live? You get that, Kalia?
I thought it was where they stay.
Okay, same thing. Don't be afraid to be wrong, because you're right. So we don't have to put where they live. We could put where are they from.
No.
When we're talking about anything, we might ask where. So let's write this down. Where are they from? Okay. And then just one last one. We got the answer of predators. Okay, Trenton?
What do they eat?
More specifically, I think it would be what do they do, or we can ask about their behavior. Okay? Okay, we can say behavior. So when we're talking about, so let's write that down. Behavior. Let's keep going.
That means both sharks and dolphins hunt other animals for food. Certain clue words let you know that two or more things are being compared. Now it's time for round 2. How are dolphins and sharks different?
Yes, Sam.
How do you contrast? When you contrast, you show how two or more things are different.
Okay, let's write that down. Okay? When you contrast, you show how two or more things are different. Okay, let's keep going. You show how two or more things are different.
You describe how things are not alike. Let's see. That guitar has 6 strings, but the bass has 4 strings. The guitar can play high notes. However, the bass plays much lower notes. Are you ready? Let's play Sharks versus Dolphins. Okay, Moby, how are sharks and dolphins different? Right, Moby. Sharks are fish, but dolphins are mammals. Right again. Dolphins and sharks breathe differently. Sharks breathe through gills, while dolphins use lungs to breathe. You're on a roll, Moby. Sharks make no sound. Dolphins, on the other hand, click, squeak, and whistle. They use these sounds to communicate and find their way around. You're on a roll, Moby.
Okay, so from these, for differences, we can say, I think they're looking at specifics. Okay, so we can say, look at specifics. Let's write that down. Look at specifics. Might not be able to see this was going behind the board. Look at specifics. And then it sounds like they asked the question of how. Okay, so how do they do what it is that they do? So you get a little more specific by asking those questions. Here we go. Just a few seconds of this.
Comparing and contrasting is a skill often used in school for a variety of subjects, such as math, science, and social studies. Teachers may ask you to compare and contrast numbers, results from a science experiment, and early civilizations in history. You may even compare and contrast without even knowing it. Think about when you go out to eat ice cream. You probably don't go places thinking you will eat every flavor. You narrow down your choices by comparing and contrasting the different flavors. So, what does it mean to compare and contrast? How does it apply to language arts? Language arts teachers often use this skill to assist students when analyzing a story or reading a passage. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the word analyze, it means to break something apart in order to be understood.
Okay, so the reason that we compare and contrast is to analyze. Let's write this down. This is the reason why we compare and contrast. To analyze, which means to break something apart in order to be understood. So we're going to break apart the cartoon X-Men to find out.
What?
It's right here. To break something apart in order to be understood. So we compare and contrast in order to do this, to analyze. So we're going to break down X-Men in order to figure out what is the real meaning behind it. How can we understand it for being more than just a cartoon? And we're going to break down the civil rights movement to understand what the clergymen did not understand. Why were they marching around? Why were they demonstrating? Okay? Why were they just so passionate about it? Why was Martin willing to go to jail? And to break something apart in order to be understood. So you should have that down. We have down the definition to contrast, and we basically have this down from our objective, but let's copy down where it says note the opposite natures, purposes, etc. I think this is a more sophisticated definition than the little base value definition we got from the little video we watched. Okay? Yeah. Yep, so we're not the whole thing, because we got majority of this already, but we're writing down, note the opposite natures, note the opposite purposes, and the opposite, etc. of whatever you're contrasting. Okay? Without looking at it, Devontae, what does it mean to contrast? Okay, so to contrast is to find the difference. To contrast is to find the difference between two things. So let's say that. To contrast is to find the difference. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Quantez, I didn't hear you. To contrast is to find the difference. Okay, so what does it mean to contrast, Quantez? To find the difference. Devontae, what does it mean to contrast? Great. So now we're looking at compare. Now, when we talk about compare, we've copied down everything in the parentheses and outside of it except for to examine. Okay, let's copy down just to examine and describe. To examine and to describe. That's how we'll write down from that. To examine, to describe. So you just add that on. You should have a running tab of definition for compare. Running tab for definition for contrast. Trenton, without looking at it, what does it mean to compare?
Get two different things and see what they got alike.
To see what they have alike.
Just to examine what?
Examine and describe. That's all we're writing down. To examine and to describe.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Hold on for a second.
Okay.
Kalia, without looking at it, what does it mean to compare?
Two things that are on.
What about two things that are alike?
See if they are like.
Okay, so without putting compare in it, put it in your own words. How do we compare? What does it mean to compare? Basically what you said, but take compare out of it.
To see if they look or.
To see how two things are alike. Okay? Alright. So, now let's go to our class practice. Turn to page 428 in your language network book, the smaller orange book. Turn to page 428, and I need one volunteer. Well, not to read. I need a volunteer. I need a test subject. I need a test dummy.
Me, I'll be.
428. Who's gonna be my guinea pig?
Me.
Looking on page 428, we see what type of a diagram. It doesn't give us a name for it. What is that diagram in the middle of the page, Quasi? A Venn diagram. Great, a Venn diagram. Who's familiar with a Venn diagram?
Everybody.
Probably not.
Yes, probably everybody.
Who's familiar with a Venn diagram? Okay, so Quantez, what does a Venn diagram do?
It's separate. What's alike and what's different?
Okay, you separate what's alike and what's different. I'm glad you use different words that compare and contrast. Okay, and the middle is to show what?
The same.
What's alike?
Okay, good. So you can only show the difference between two things with a Venn diagram, but you can add another one, a circle in there. So we're going to test out Pepsi and Cola. Okay? Pepsi and Cola.
Can I shake it?
No, you can't shake it. So what can we say? So let's go to our questions. Okay? So what are they? Okay, they're both pop. We call it pop here in the north. In the south, they call it soda. Okay? What else are there? How can we get more specific and say what they are? What are they?
Something you can drink.
Okay.
Liquid.
Okay, something you can drink. They're a beverage. Okay, so we'll say beverage, drink. Okay. Now I'm looking for the thinkers to get more specific. What
Coca-Cola.
is Pepsi? What is Coca-Cola?
Dead.
Carbonated.
Okay, they're carbonated. We said pop.
Acid.
What else?
Acid.
Nope,
Yes.
that's carbonation. What else, Shania?
Sugar.
There are types of. We said drinks.
Pops.
We said pops. There are types of cola. Okay? So they're both a type of cola. So cola is a flavor of soda. And it can come in any name brand. They don't have to come in the big name brands of Pepsi and Coca-Cola. It can come in any name brand. Okay? Now let's go to the next question. What do we see about their appearance, Devontae?
The Pepsi got
Pepsi is blue. Okay? What else?
and the Coke is
Okay? So
Whipped cream.
Pepsi is blue, or as Michaela said, it's a crib, and cola, or we'll just call it Coke, and we'll say it's representing blood gang. No, Coke is red. All right, so now, what else about their other appearance? About their
It's
liquid
blue.
appearance?
the same.
Same, which is what? Brown, black, whatever. Okay. Yeah, we'll say brown. And they're both brown. Now let's go to the next question. Kalia, what's the next question? Number 3.
Where are they from?
Where are they from? So I need 2 people to take out their cell phones and to Google Coca-Cola, Pepsi to tell me where they're from.
So what am I here for?
You're going to do the taste test,
Oh,
which
no.
brings us to number 4. Okay, so number 4 says what, Shania? What does number 4 say?
Behavior and duty.
Duties. Thank you. So, what's the duty of these 2 beverages? What are they supposed to do for us?
They make me thirsty.
Satisfying.
I make you thirsty.
Let's
Make you unthirsty.
Well, that's
The taste in your mouth.
taste. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. So they are supposed to quench your thirst, but they're also supposed to taste good. They're supposed to do it in a tasteful way, huh? Okay, which one? Pepsi is from North Carolina.
What do we sit here and read the back?
Okay, where's it come from?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, Atlanta, Georgia. ATL. Okay, I'm sorry to hear about that.
I'm living in California.
You gonna taste?
Yeah, I'm gonna taste it.
All
I'm
right.
gonna spit it out on you too.
That's great, because I spit in it already.
Bro, no, because I don't really drink it. I'm really strong.
I didn't put my mouth on it.
It smells good.
Drink the whole thing. You gotta do cola.
It's nasty, y'all. It's nasty.
Okay. Really? Should we put nasty down for a Pepsi? Okay, you're not the first person to say that. So you said Pepsi is nasty. Anything else we should say about the taste?
It stank.
The taste is stank.
It stinks so bad. Count for some.
Where? Just down it.
Somebody want this?
Really quickly.
It's like liquor.
You should get used to it then.
Yeah, it's like
Such a bad. Come on.
Why don't you do Sprite?
It's that.
Put that Sprite and 7 Up.
Then next time. All right, here we go.
Just next to you. Ready?
It's fine too.
Okay, what can we say about cola?
Tastes like drugs. Tastes the same. They both nasty.
Didn't you?
Okay, so they're both nasty. Some people said that Coke was good or better. You know, some people said that
They both
Pepsi was sweeter. Okay, so,
I don't know I did this. Everybody was probably gonna say this.
okay, so, that trend, what does it say at the top of 428?
You talking about?
Learn what it is.
You probably have a definite. Oh, what? Definite. Definite.
Mm-hmm.
Sir?
Preferences.
Preference in movies and clothing and even friends and pets.
Great. You probably have definite preferences in movies, in clothing, and even in friends or pets. Shania, I need you to stand up. So definite means that you have limitations on who you would accept as a friend. You have limitations on what would you accept as a pet. Who wants a goldfish as a pet? You have one. Okay, not too many people actually want one. So we have preferences on that. If your parents still picked out your clothes, you probably wouldn't wear them because you have preferences of how you want to dress now. Okay? If I said, hey, let's take a class trip to a romance movie, okay, majority of the boys would probably say, no, thank you. Okay? Because you have preferences. So, keep going. So it says you might have a decision between, you might have to make a decision between one shoe brand and another by thinking about the differences between the two. So if I went into Foot Locker right now, I would have a lot of different options. One of the things that would be one of my preferences is cost. Okay, I only own one pair of Jordans, only have all my entire life because they were on clearance. I'm not paying $200 for any Jordans. They were $60, that's the most I'm paying for Jordans. Probably not the most, I'd probably pay $90, but I'm not paying $200. Okay, also the look would be a factor. Whether they're high top or low top would be a factor in shoes. The color, depending on what outfit I want to go to. All of those would be factors. I would have to sit there and compare and contrast shoes. And I do. It takes me much too long. So, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about compare and contrast. Okay? And we're doing that with the two entities that we discussed. Turn to page 457. 457. So now we're talking about how to apply this in a research report. Come on. 457. Okay, I'm going to read through the student model of a research report. Coincidentally, they're doing a comparison and a contrast in this student model. I'm going to read through it. Pardon? I don't know. Could be someone's actual essay. Okay, so this one was written by Steve Alderson in English 1. You all are in English 2. Teacher is Mr. Wilder. This was April 14th of 2000. Notice how they have the same heading that we use, and that's because it's MLA style. Devontae, what's the title of this essay? Not of the page. What's the title of this essay? No, that's the title of the page. What's the title of the essay? Thank you. Softball. A game as exciting as hardball. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Great. Let's get started. If someone took you out to a ball game and the crowd wasn't packed into the stadium that held 40,000 people or more, there's a good chance that you were taken to a softball game. When an attempt was made to reestablish a professional softball league in 1997, the opening game was played in a stadium that held just over 2,000 people. This information was taken from Kennedy. The media have never given the attention to softball that they have to hardball, and many people think of softball as an inferior type of baseball. In reality, though, it is played by far more people than hardball. In the magazine Sporting Goods Business, Marianne Bonsley reported that in 1997 there were 13.3 million registered baseball players and 22.1 million softball players. In fact, in its fast pitch form, softball is every bit as exciting, competitive, and tough as its older cousin. Although Major League Baseball began in 1876, the game itself was not invented, it evolved. This was taken from Thorne and Palmer. On the other hand, we know exactly when, where, and how softball began. According to the Worth Book of Softball, on Thanksgiving Day in 1887, a small group of young men were gathered in a boat club's gymnasium in Chicago. They were listening to a series of telegrams giving the score of the football game between Yale and Harvard. At one point, one man threw a boxing glove across the gym and another, turn the page, picked up a broom handle and hit it back. A reporter named George Hancock then yelled, "Let's play ball!" And they did. This was taken from Dixon 46 and 47. This beginning suggests that the greatest similarity between softball and baseball is the fundamental fact that the rules are much the same. A person who knows how to play baseball knows how to play softball and vice versa. In fact, the differences between the games are so minor that Joe Brinkman and Charlie Echner maintain that any baseball umpire can become a good softball umpire. Page 161. So, I just read through the student model. You're going to answer 3 questions based on that. One moment. So if you need to read back through it, you can. Actually, before you answer those questions, just answer very quickly. Why do we compare and contrast in English? Answer that on your paper very quickly, and I'll go to the other.
On the same notes?
Yep, on the same page as the notes. So we answered the question already. Why do we compare and contrast in English?
What's the answer?
Shh, Michaela, turn your voice off.
I'm asking a question.
Turn your voice off. I get paid to answer questions.
What's the answer?
We discussed it already. Okay, why do we compare and contrast in English? Just put your answer down. And now here's your 3 questions to the student model essay. You have to go back through it. Go back through the essay. Just 3 paragraphs. Okay, so what is softball being compared to?
Write the question.
You don't have to write the question. Nope. So don't say anything out loud. But what is softball being compared to is question number 1. Question number 2 is, what are the similarities in the rules between softball and its comparison? And then the third one is, what are some of the differences between the two, softball and its comparison? What are the differences between the two? This is. It says it in the paragraph. Yeah. So you have to dig back through. You have 9 minutes to complete 3 questions. So you got 3 minutes each for each question.
We gotta turn on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can go back
You
to
gotta write
writing
these
and get the
questions
last one.
You gotta write these questions up.
Nope. Just answer.
Q, what's the last question though?
The question before was why?
Why?
Why do we compare and contrast in English?
That's the question.
That was the question. Why do we compare and contrast in English? That's the one we just answered. Shania, you were supposed to be standing up. Just very quickly, for homework, just think about, while you're doing this thing, just think about how you would like to compare and contrast X-Men to the Civil Rights Movement in your research paper. Tomorrow we're going to talk about a thesis statement. So it's something completely different, and you have to understand how you want to compare them. Okay, so just think about how you want to compare the two. That's your homework.